Discover the incredible struggles of medieval peasants. 5 amazing secrets to survive against the harsh realities of their existence. Sam stood in the attic, sweltering in the summer heat, the musty scent of forgotten memories filling his lungs. He had climbed up to sift through his grandfather's belongings, but what caught his eye was an ancient leather-bound journal, its surface cracked and brittle. As he brushed off the dust, he felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. How many dreams had once lived in these pages? He fumbled with the clasp, pushing it open to reveal tales of medieval peasants' endless struggles for dignity, survival tactics, and unyielding hope. The flicker of those peasants' spirits ignited longing within him, a deep stir that felt both exhilarating and painfully out of reach. Yet here he was, a 34-year-old history teacher, feeling like a ghost trapped in the sepulchre of unrealized ambitions. The weight of familial expectations pressed down harder than ever since his grandfather had passed. The town diner, once a hub of laughter and dreams, now a fading emblem, loomed before him like a millstone. Was he meant to let go of teaching, stifling his passion for the duty of keeping the diner afloat? The thought twisted in his stomach, leaving him with a gnawing emptiness. Should he cling to his identity as an educator, fighting for children's futures, or bow to the relentless pull of tradition? He could feel it coiling in his gut, that familiar spiral of anxiety as the call of reality grew louder. A school board meeting was looming ahead, with new reforms threatening to cut arts funding. Sam's heart raced. The arts weren't just classes. They were lifelines for students, vibrant pathways to their hopes. How could he stand idle while they faced erosion? A clamor of frustration surged within him. He longed to rally the town, but the fear of being unheard swallowed him whole. Did he have the strength to challenge a system that felt untouchable? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sam clenched the journal, fingers trembling, grappling with the swelling tide of doubt. His thoughts spiraled. Had he become an echo of his grandfather's dreams, muffled by the mundane beats of daily life? The legacy of his ancestors burned brightly in his heart, but was he strong enough to carry it forward? Every attempt to rise felt like running into a wall of anticipation, stifled by the weight of expectations. Anguish coiled tight within him as he envisioned a community deprived of expression, a generation robbed of inspiration. The question loomed like a dark shadow. Could he turn back the tide of despair and breathe life into both his passion and his family's legacy? As he gazed out the attic window, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, symbolizing the tempest brewing both within and around him. It was just the beginning, yet he could feel the storm's foreboding grip tightening on his shoulders. With a deep breath, he prepared to confront the impending conflict. What would it take to reclaim his path, to be more than just a caretaker of fading dreams? The future loomed uncertain, but Sam knew one truth. Every battle began with a single voice. Sam descended the rickety attic stairs, the weight of his grandfather's journal heavy in his hands. Each step felt like wading through treacle, thickening with purpose. He had discovered tales of resilience that resonated too deeply. They were more than stories, they were annals of a fight against the bleakness of existence. What might that mean for him? A solitary figure grappling with the tattered remains of expectations. In the diner, he inhaled deeply, the greasy, sweet aroma of breakfast intertwining with the bitterness of his thoughts. It was packed, the familiar low hum of conversation mixed with the clanging of utensils. Yet he felt distant, like he had stepped outside reality and was now observing his life unfold from the outside. Customers greeted him, their cheer colliding with his muted sorrow. As he poured coffee, he couldn't shake the nagging malaise pressing against his chest. He set down the coffee pot and grabbed his notebook, flipping through scattered pages filled with lesson plans and sketches of artistic ideas meant for his students. There it was, the spark. These pages represented his aspirations to inspire young minds, to instill creativity not just in the classroom but also in life. But what good were they if he chose to abandon them for the weight of obligation? The question gnawed at him, demanding answers. That evening, as the day dimmed into dusk, Sam found himself at his kitchen table, journal open, pen in hand. Words flowed like a stream, churning with urgency and discontent. He wrote about the peasants, their relentless struggles, their refusal to be erased by hardship. A revelation struck him: his struggles, too, were part of a larger narrative, a quest for purpose amid challenges. He wasn't just a teacher. He could be a beacon of advocacy for the arts, galvanizing a movement of students and parents who shared his passion. With enthusiasm building, Sam plotted a course to rally support. He envisioned a gathering where parents, teachers, and students could voice their concerns about the funding cuts. He wouldn't simply stand back. He would take the reins of his destiny. This was his moment to challenge the status quo, to advocate for the arts passionately and publicly. But as he began to outline his plan, doubt crept in once more. Would anyone listen? Would the parents care enough to come, to speak out against the board? He pictured the faces of his students, their creativity stifled by lack of resources. The thought galloped through him, igniting a fierce determination. He wouldn't find the answer on his own. Perhaps, like those medieval peasants, it was time to forge alliances, to share his vision openly and invite others to join the cause. Sam resolved to speak with his colleagues the next day. He would lay bare his plan, share his hope, and seek their support. The storm clouds that had once loomed ominously now seemed less threatening, transformed into a battleground-esque call. Each heartbeat thrummed with potential. Before sleep overtook him, he considered what the next steps would be. It was clear. His voice was calling him forward, not just for himself but for every young artist whose passion could be extinguished. Sam sank back against his pillow, an unfamiliar resolve hardening within. He wouldn't be a ghost haunting the ruins of what could have been. He would rise, prepared to fight for a cause that mattered deeply. Tomorrow would be different. He would not just talk about hope. He would forge it into reality. The time had come to face his fears and reclaim the dreams that once burned bright. Could he rally the courage to confront the school board? Or would he allow his words to falter in the face of their indifference? The morning dawned, an expanse of soft light spilling into Sam's modest kitchen, tinged with the promise of change. He barely tasted his coffee, its warmth lost amid the whirlwind of thoughts that coursed through him. Today wasn't merely another day. It was the day he would share his vision. His fingers trembled slightly as he fished out notes from last night's brainstorming session, resolving to turn his tentative ideas into a compelling narrative that could inspire those around him. He arrived at the school with mixed emotions. Trepidation wrestled with the burgeoning excitement within. Students milled about, their voices a chorus of laughter and joy, momentarily silencing his doubts. This was the environment that fueled his passion, the very heart of why he fought against mediocrity. As he walked the corridor, each step echoed the silent promise he had made to himself. In the staff room, his colleagues lounged casually, sipping coffee and engaging in idle chatter. Sam's heart raced as he approached the group, his earlier resolve wavering slightly. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of the students who would benefit from this advocacy. Their faces, so full of untapped potential, bolstered his courage. He cleared his throat, and a hush fell over the room as they turned to face him. "Can I have everyone's attention for a minute?" The words emerged stronger than he felt inside, and he quickly capitalized on the moment. "I believe we need to talk about the arts program and the potential cuts we're facing. I've devised a plan to elevate awareness among parents and the board." A ripple of skepticism passed through the room. "Sam, have you thought this through?" asked Mrs. Jennings, her brow furrowing. "It's a tough battle against budget decisions. No one listens to the arts anymore." He could feel the weight of her apathy, a dull ache that resonated with his earlier fears. But the resolve that had sparked within him would not extinguish. "That's why we need to act. We can't just accept the status quo." The arts are essential for creativity and critical thinking. We owe it to our students to fight for them. He began outlining his vision, a gathering to present their collective concerns, emphasizing not just the risks but the incredible benefits of robust arts programs. As he spoke, he could see a flicker in some faces. Doubt shifted to intrigue. "Perhaps we could canvass opinions from parents beforehand," suggested Mr. Gray, leaning forward. "Let them voice their thoughts. Could help strengthen our case." Encouragement pulsed through Sam. Here was a subtle but momentous shift. His colleagues were brainstorming with him, rallying around the idea of coalition building. Hours flew by as they honed the message and gathered materials. To his astonishment, the initial skepticism dissipated, replaced with genuine excitement. As they dispersed, Sam felt lighter, the burden of isolation replaced with a sense of community, however nascent. But outside, as daylight faded to dusk, doubt wormed its way back into his mind. What if this camaraderie was fleeting? What if parents dismissed their struggles as unimportant? What if his voice faltered when it mattered most? With each relentless thought, uncertainty encroached on his newfound momentum. He didn't want this to be just a fleeting moment of inspiration. He needed it to become a movement, a rallying cry that reverberated through the school's walls and out into the community. Underneath his layers of anxiety, a fiery whisper persisted. "This is your moment, Sam. Don't hold back." He clenched his hands into fists, imagining the potential impact of their efforts on the students' futures. Decisions loomed ahead. They were both tantalizing and terrifying. Could he transform this burgeoning support into something that invoked real change? With his heart pounding, he weighed the risks of speaking to the school board, the ultimate test of his newfound resolve. As he prepared for tomorrow, doubt mingled with anticipation, leaving Sam standing at the precipice of a daunting challenge. The horizon stretched ahead, both inviting and intimidating. Could he truly inspire action, or would he find himself silenced by his own fears? Sam awoke the next morning, the relentless pulse of uncertainty still thrumming in his chest. He glanced at the clock, noting the hurried rhythms of time slipping away from him. An internal battle brewed, equal parts fear and excitement, a storm swirling within a calm surface. Today was designated for a confrontation that felt larger than life. He dressed methodically, each article of clothing serving as a shield against his doubts. Stepping inside the school, it struck him how every corner seemed charged with energy. Students animatedly exchanging ideas and laughter, breaths alive with youthful potential. The stark contrast between their enthusiasm and his internal turmoil clawed at his mind. They were oblivious to the storm clouds gathering around their arts program, a matter so critical yet so easily overlooked. He could almost hear their voices urging him to push beyond his trepidation. As he made his way to the boardroom, heart racing, he mentally rehearsed his speech. Would it be enough to reach the adults behind the table? Would his vision resonate beyond the confines of his own fear? He was on the threshold of something monumental. This summit with the Board of Education had the potential to shape the landscape for countless students. But, at the same time, it felt like a precipice from which he could tumble into doubt and frustration. Entering the boardroom, he was met with a trio of stern faces. The air thickened around him as they settled into their seats, each gaze piercing through to ascertain his intention. Throwing his shoulders back, he squared himself, striving to project authority. "Thank you for meeting with me today," he began, trying to steady his trembling hands. "I want to discuss the importance of the arts program and the consequences of the proposed budget cuts." The board members exchanged glances, eyes flicking with judgment. The chairperson, Mrs. Tracy, spoke first, her voice cool and practiced. "Sam, we appreciate your concern, but this is a budgetary necessity. The arts are often viewed as expendable." The words stung, igniting a familiar frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "But the arts are not just expendable," he countered, heartbreakingly passionate. "They cultivate creativity, develop critical thinkers, and instill confidence skills that extend far beyond the classroom." The quiet moments that followed felt laden with tension, as Sam searched their faces for a hint of acceptance. "Show us," came Mr. Wallace's abrupt response, his tone assessing, as if challenging Sam to justify his fervor. "Do you have data to support your claims?" "Absolutely," Sam replied, gathering his materials, feeling a rush of urgency. He presented statistics illustrating the correlation between arts education and academic achievement, personal testimonies of former students who credited their success to creative exploration. With every fact laid down, he felt a flicker of confidence spark inside him, emboldening him further. As Sam spoke, he gradually moved away from mere numbers, shifting into stories that held the essence of why the arts mattered. He painted vivid images of students overcoming struggles, of their eyes alight with newfound awareness, of a world that opened up through creative expression. For a fleeting moment, he saw them leaning in, entranced by the possibilities. Yet, as questions flew back, he felt his resolve wavering. The board's skepticism was insistent, bluntly quelling his narrative. "These are admirable stories, but they do not sway budgetary concerns," Mrs. Tracy rejoined with an air of finality. Sam could feel the familiar doubts creeping back in, insistent and insidious. "Perhaps," he pressed on, pushing against the tide of doubt, "but isn't it our responsibility to advocate for what enriches our students' lives? To think beyond the immediate financial constraints?" There was a beat of silence, thick like humidity before a storm. Before Mrs. Tracy responded, "What are you proposing, Sam?" The question hung in the air, electrifying. Here lay an opportunity, a thread to grasp, something that could weave his ideas into a coherent strategy. A campaign, he began tentatively, but fervor swiftly clawed its way to the forefront of his expression. One that not only highlights the importance of the arts but engages parents, the community, and broader stakeholders in the conversation. In that moment, Sam felt the shift. What began as an uphill struggle morphed into a burgeoning moment of clarity and decision. The desire to ignite change ignited a ferocity in him like never before. Perhaps he was not here to just advocate but to initiate a transformation. They were listening now, their expressions shifting as they leaned into the prospect. He painted a campaign that infused the arts into their very tactical approach. But he could feel the question looming, begging in the depths of his mind. Could he sustain this momentum beyond today? As the meeting continued, a new challenge arose: how to convert this budding interest into real, tangible action. And as doubts tried to seep back in, a question flickered to life like a match struck in the dark. How far was he willing to push himself, to reach out for something greater? The rise of uncertainty accompanied him as he closed his eyes for a moment, visualizing the faces of hopeful students, and the echo of realization hit him hard. This was just the beginning. Sam left the boardroom with a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. The conversation had shifted from mere defense to a proposal, a living, breathing entity that could inspire, engage, and enact change. Yet, the questions that haunted him during the presentation loomed larger than ever now. He wasn't simply advocating for a program. He was proposing a campaign that might require a depth of perseverance he hadn't yet explored in himself. As he walked through the school's bustling corridors, his mind was a torrent of ideas. Each student he passed reminded him of why he was fighting this battle. He saw their vibrant energy, the countless possibilities awaiting them if the arts program continued to thrive. But he couldn't shake the gnawing doubt. What if the proposal failed? Would he be letting every one of them down? Sam sought refuge in his regular haunt, the art studio where chaos reigned in the beauty of creativity. It was a realm filled with canvases splattered with paint, half-finished sculptures, and the quiet hum of inspiration. He took a seat at one of the worn wooden tables, empty except for a few brushes and a palette waiting for color. In this space, he felt the frantic tempo of anxiety start to ebb, replaced by something less tangible, yet deeply comforting: the force of creativity. He pondered the pragmatic steps needed to move his campaign forward. Engaging parents and community members would take more than just passion. It would require strategic thinking, outreach, and a daunting realization, leading conversations where he would have to articulate not just the need, but a clear path to securing support. As he leaned back, thoughts began to crystallize. Could he rally support through school events? What if he created an exhibition that showcased student talents, illustrating the impact of art on their academic journeys? That could generate excitement and foster an environment ripe for dialogue about funding. He envisioned flyers, meetings, the possibility of even presenting at local businesses to gain financial backing. Yet doubt sneaked back in, whispering that he was reaching too high, moving too fast. Who was he to think he could drive such change? A deep breath washed over him. Perhaps he needed to confront this turmoil head-on. The seeds of uncertainty were stifling his ambition, but why should he let them? Each moment alone served as an opportunity to surface the courage lodged within him. He recalled the stories he had shared, stories of students who had found their voice through art, transformed by imagination. To allow those echoes of doubt to drown out his vision felt like sacrilege. He had advocates in the wings. These students deserved a champion, whether he felt like one or not. With renewed resolve, he reached for a brush, allowing instinct to guide his hand as he began mixing colors. Creating art was like crafting new possibilities. The act itself was transformative. An idea struck him. What if he created a piece, something that represented his vision for the arts program? It could serve as a centerpiece for the campaign, an emotional anchor that tied everything together. As he worked, the colors glided together, revealing shapes that hinted at moments of discovery, growth, and the joy of creativity. Each stroke became a manifestation of his journey, a declaration of his commitment. He realized this wasn't solely about saving a program. It was about fostering resilience, passion, and a community that supported artistic exploration. Hours passed unnoticed until the studio lights dimmed. Sam took a step back, staring at his creation, a tapestry of possibilities born from uncertainty. The colors vibrated with life, a reflection of where he envisioned the arts could go. And within him, a silent promise began to form. Would he dare to share this piece, to let it speak on his behalf? The question hanging heavy in the air, Sam decided that the time to confront his fears and step into the unknown had come. He was ready to put his vision before the community, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. But even as determination solidified within him, an unsettling notion nagged at the back of his mind. What if the very effort he poured into this campaign only illuminated deeper cracks in the system? What lay underneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered in this pursuit? As the evening wore on, the shadows in the studio began to deepen, mirroring the turbulent void of unanswered questions swirling within him. It was clear now. He was on the brink of something transformational, but how far would it push him? How much was he willing to sacrifice in this fight for art? The next morning, the sunlight streamed through Sam's bedroom window, casting a warm glow on the unfinished strokes of his painting in his mind. The air felt charged with purpose as he woke up, and the unwavering resolve from last night pushed him out of bed. This wasn't just a project anymore. It had transformed into a crusade of sorts. But the twinge of fear clung to him, a relentless reminder of what awaited. He couldn't ignore the magnitude of the task ahead. Today marked the beginning of engaging not just patrons but skeptics and potentially reluctant supporters. He envisioned parents, teachers, and community members with their arms crossed, questions poised in the air, doubt written all over their faces. Sam wrestled with the thought of failure, but he knew he had to channel that into something constructive. What he needed now was a plan. Over breakfast, Sam began to outline strategies, jotting down key points on a napkin. He reminded himself to be specific, address the needs, highlight the benefits, and showcase the impact. How would art influence students and lead to measurable improvements in their lives? It became clear that he was not only fighting for the program but for a mindset shift, understanding that the arts complemented rather than competed with traditional subjects. The school bell rang, and the day began with the chaos of students rushing through the halls. Sam found himself cherishing those brief moments, greeting the bright faces that made his purpose clearer. They were the very advocates he needed, young voices mingled with potential. After school, he intended to summon some of his art students to collaborate. What better way to demonstrate value than frontline testimonies? With a heart rate that matched the rhythm of a drum, he entered the studio. Paint still lingered on his hands from the previous evening, a tangible reminder of his creative outlet. The students piled in, their energy infectious. He took a moment to observe them, their talents lightening the weight of responsibility he had chosen to take on. Sam recalled moments of their artistic transformation, each of them a testament to what continued support could foster. "All right, everyone," he began, trying to inject energy into his tone while battling nervousness. "We need your help. I've been working on a project that can shine a light on how crucial the arts are in our education." Their eyes sparkled with curiosity, and he could feel his pulse steadying. He started sharing ideas, enlisting their help to create visual pieces that could underpin his campaign. As they brainstormed, drawing on pieces they had previously created, the conversation flowed with unexpected enthusiasm. Art was not just an afterthought. It became the beating heart of their learning experiences. Yet, as they spoke of how art moved them, buried doubts resurfaced. What if it became a futile effort? Their passion was palpable, but would it convince the doubters? Sam felt inspiration slide back into uncertainty. And what if no one cares? A whisper questioned from the shadows of his mind. He shook the thought away and tightened his focus. This project could be transformative. It had to be. He would align their interests with community needs, linking funding to the resonant narratives woven through their creativity. Together, they could create something that might not just showcase art but transcend it, bringing alive the stories behind their artworks, the individuality that art represented. As the afternoon sun dipped below the horizon, Sam marveled at the flurry of creativity in the room. His students were charged, drawing connections between art and their life experiences, nurturing a collective aspiration that felt infectious. But temptation gnawed at him. What if he shared their stories publicly, putting faces to the abstract notion of funding? An impending confrontation lay ahead. How could he bear the weight of their hopes? Each decision felt heavier, every moment heavier with expectation. As they wrapped up the session, Sam's mind raced with ideas of how to market this undertaking. Still, a chilling sense of dread clutched at his insides. Each step forward felt like stepping onto a stage, exposing himself to scrutiny and judgment. He took a deep breath as shadows danced outside the window, echoing the internal struggle brewing within him. The revelation struck: he needed to be more than the messenger. He had to embody the change he sought. But what would that change mean for him personally? How far was he willing to go to advocate for something that felt inherently risky? The night stretched on, filled with anxiety-laden contemplation, a precursor to the truths yet to unfold. With a whisper of determination, he felt the air stagnate with unanswered doubts. Galvanizing the community would test his mettle in unprecedented ways. But would he stand strong amidst the looming confrontation with those who might oppose him? The stakes were escalating. The time to face the inevitable was drawing near. Sam realized this journey had only just begun. Sam woke up the next morning feeling the weight of yesterday's uncertainty pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. A battle was brewing, and his armor felt flimsy. He stared at the same unfinished strokes of his painting, the vision in his mind now marred by doubts that crept like shadows. What if he wasn't enough? What if these students he believed in so deeply found themselves unprotected when his conviction faltered? With determination igniting within him, Sam forced himself out of bed. Standing in front of the mirror, he scrutinized his face, soft features etched with lines of worry. He was not just their teacher anymore, but now their advocate. He needed to approach today with clarity, to refine his vision into something actionable and undeniable. He felt the urgency pulse in his veins as he hurriedly made breakfast. Ideas churned in his mind as he scribbled elaborate plans on another napkin. It's quite possible, he thought, that the answer was in storytelling. He would invite the parents, the skeptics themselves, to witness the students' voices and expressions, the passion manifesting in every brushstroke. What better way to turn their skepticism into support than by allowing them to see art's transformative power unveiled through their children's work? When he arrived at school, the hallway felt alive with excitement. The familiar chatter became background music to his thoughts. Sam's mind raced, strategizing not just for charm, but for critical arguments. He needed to confront not just the resistance but also the apathy. How could he articulate the importance of art as a language that voiced their emotions, making them whole in a mention of educational limitations? Sam gathered his students again in the studio after school, this time carrying the weight of a purpose that felt heavier yet more invigorating. "Listen," he said, pacing with resolve. "We're going to create a presentation and exhibition. We'll showcase how art has shaped who you are and why every stroke, every color, matters in learning." Hands shot up in excitement, echoing with the raw energy he had felt before. They started brainstorming and peeling back layers of personal experiences. Here, Sam saw their insecurities flicker along with their pride as they discussed the role art played in their lives. Each story unveiled a new layer to their identity, drawing intrinsic connections that stirred Sam's heart. But as the enthusiasm built to a crescendo, a sudden wave of doubt pierced through him again. What if the feedback from parents and teachers mirrored his internal strife? Would they criticize these raw, emotional expressions? He could sense his heart racing, a reminder that even with courage, the possibility of exposure could be terrifying. What if we invite our parents to see this? One student suggested, her eyes bright with anticipation. Sam felt a spark within him. That was exactly what he needed. "We could write them letters, share our stories beforehand," he proposed, excitement flooding his voice. "Let us turn this into a dialogue, a conversation." Each student eagerly scribbled letters, and as he watched them work, he felt a flush of hope chasing away his doubts. Perhaps sharing their insecurities through their art would resonate beyond the canvas. Yet another nagging thought loomed persistently. Would they understand the significance of vulnerability? The essence of art mirrored truth in a way that numbers and standard assessments could never measure. That night, Sam spread out the letters on his desk, reading through each one thoughtfully. They were heartfelt, honest narratives revealing glimpses into their personalities, each one uncovering hidden layers of brilliance and self-acceptance. The courage manifested in those words began to catalyze something significant within him. But as he prepared mentally for tomorrow's confrontation, a suffocating dread crept back in. Would it be enough? Could their stories withstand scrutiny? Sam sat among the letters, poised between anticipation and fear, teetering at the edge of stepping into the unknown. The lingering question emerged again. What if their truth was not enough? As the clock ticked, dawning realization wrapped around him like an iron grasp. He would have to stand before the parents and staff, wearing his heart on his sleeve. He needed to embrace the fear and hope that came with vulnerability, because in doing so, he could truly embody the change he sought. But would embracing that change compel others to join his cause, or would it push them further away? The answer awaited him, fraught with both danger and possibility. The stage was set. It was time to step into a confrontation that could redefine not only his students' futures but his own. Sam woke before dawn, the morning light slipping through his curtains like a timid visitor. He felt the weight of the letters on his desk pressing against him, their words swirling in his mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust. Today promised confrontation, a necessary pivot into the discomfort he dreaded. Silence enveloped the house. It was the perfect backdrop for reflection. Sitting in the kitchen, the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, yet he found no solace in it. Instead, Sam immersed himself in the letters one more time. Each narrative spoke with a profound honesty that made his heart ache. How could he channel these vulnerabilities into a capacity for higher understanding? This was no longer about showcasing talent. It had turned into a mission to validate their struggles and voices. As he finished his coffee, determination unfurled within him. He penned his own letter, one that would act as a bridge between the students' heartfelt expressions and the skeptical parents. What could he share to inspire connection? With clear strokes of his pen, he unveiled his own journey, revealing the brushes with failure that had defined his path. The artistic struggle, once a solitary pursuit, was now a shared experience. Arriving at school, the bustling environment felt different. Gone was the casual excitement. The air was thick with tension. Sam gathered his students in the studio once more, this time sensing a heightened undercurrent of anxiety. Before he could speak, the question hung in the air: were they ready to be vulnerable? I know it's daunting, he began, swallowing hard. But today, we need to share our passions and our struggles. There is power in our stories. A palpable sense of fear rippled through the group, mirroring his own internal turmoil. He could even see the tiniest hints of fear flicker in his own eyes. Think about what you want them to understand, he urged. This isn't just about art. It's about you. Each canvas holds a piece of your heart. The students began to share their thoughts, some trembling but pushing through. They spoke of pressures at home, of criticism that felt relentless, and how art had served as a release. Sam found comfort as their narratives intertwined, amplifying each other's bravery, weaving a blanket of support that enveloped the room. Yet still, doubt lingered like a dark cloud over the impending presentation. Would this raw honesty be met with understanding or harsh judgment? Sam recalled the frail child in the back who had quietly crafted a piece depicting a fractured family, a disturbing yet beautiful contrast to the cheerful compositions others had shared. The grit within that painting shook him. Let us practice, he suggested, pacing to infuse the room with his growing resolve. Each student stood, sharing their stories aloud. As voices rose and quivered, Sam noticed something profound. Vulnerability was strength, and each shaky syllable hung heavy with significance. After each presentation, silent approval glimmered in their eyes like embers beginning to glow brighter. They were ready. However, his own resolve wavered as he glanced at the clock. Time was running thin. Heart racing, he beckoned silence among the group and gathered them close. Remember, it is not just about words, your emotions matter. That's what will resonate. The bell signaling the end of the school day rang, echoing through the hallways like the start of a countdown. Sam's heart pounded in tandem with it, a metronome marking a pivotal change. How could he ensure these kids would be heard? As they prepped for this monumental moment, candles of hope flickered among belief and uncertainty. Confidence brewed with the knowledge that they had tapped into something universal, a longing for acceptance, a shared vulnerability. But then an unsettling thought crossed his mind. What if their journey into this confrontation unveiled something darker, a truth too complicated or painful? Standing by the door to the auditorium, they paused, eyes wide and breath held. Sam whispered a silent promise to the students. No matter the outcome, he would stand by them. Today would not just be a presentation. It would be a testament to their power and courage. With unease thrumming at his core, Sam pushed the door open. How would his own fears bear up against the vulnerability they were about to display? The question lingered like an untested hypothesis, and the answers awaited them on the other side. The room breathed in ragged anticipation as Sam stepped through the doorway, the heavy velvet curtains swaying ever so slightly, catching whispers of light. The auditorium unfolded before them, a vast, daunting space. The smell of polished wood and faint hints of cleaning agents hung in the air, mingling with the scent of fear and excitement emanating from his students. It struck him how both their vulnerability and bravery could illuminate even the darkest corners of their lives. He scanned the audience, composed mainly of parents, guardians, and faculty members. Doubts pierced through his resolve like sharp knives. What if they rejected the openness of his students? What if the narratives that held so much weight crumbled beneath judgmental gazes? Gritting his teeth, Sam reminded himself of his promise to stand by them. All right, remember your breath, he encouraged softly, though he was equally in need of the reminder. Each student fidgeted nervously, stealing glances at their families and friends. He sensed a collective heartbeat, one that echoed his own. Their determination surged into a single pulse, and he felt the tension weave into something larger. One by one, his students took their places at the lectern, their voices quaking but firm. The first student spoke of fears and dreams, detailing how the heaviness at home pushed her creative spirit into dark corners. Each story that followed carved deeper into the auditorium's atmosphere. As heartfelt moments unfolded, betrayals of trust, resilience against bullies, and the journey through personal trauma, Sam watched the audience shift. Initial skepticism softened into cautious attentiveness. But through the burgeoning acceptance lay Sam's internal whirlwind. What about the true purpose behind this encounter? Would the revelations reforge the connections he so desperately wanted, or would they sever bonds with the brutal sword of reality? His heart raced further as the clock ticked down, the urgency creeping into his bones. It was time for him to step into the light, a moment awaited and unwelcome. With the final student finished, applause rolled through the audience, tentative at first but gaining momentum. It encouraged Sam, yet the first rise of adrenaline masked something more profound within him, fear of his own story. "Thank you all for sharing your journeys," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Tonight, we delved deep into the power of vulnerability, uncovering layers of strength and truth in our narratives. But I would be remiss if I didn't share mine." Sam drew a deep breath, feeling the wave of heat flush his face. He navigated through his doubts, detailing a childhood riddled with feeling inadequate, the pursuit of art as a means of escape, and the gut-wrenching failures that marked his journey. As he recounted those moments, something earlier unshakable began to tremble and shift. He rediscovered a strength in sharing, a resiliency that had lain dormant within him since he first picked up a paintbrush. The audience's eyes widened, drawn in by his raw honesty. With each word, Sam encountered a sense of liberation that embroiled him in affirmations, their understanding, misgivings, and connections knitted tighter among them. Yet as he wrapped up, a silence fell, a weighty pause before the storm. What if he had laid too much bare? How would they perceive the mess of his past? Sam's heart raced, those thoughts swirling again in a maelstrom. From the back, a weary voice broke through the tension. "But aren't there limits to vulnerability?" The room shifted, and a single gaze threatened to unravel the optimism swirling in the space. Sam felt the pulse of uncertainty throb louder than ever, as though riling up the very truths they aimed to share. "Thank you for your honesty," he replied slowly, giving himself time to consider the depths of the inquiry. "But perhaps it's in the exploration of those limits that we find what it means to truly connect with one another." His voice carried genuine resolve, though uncertainty crept back into his consciousness. The energy in the room buzzed with unfulfilled potential, a bridge yet to be crossed. Sam understood that the night wasn't an end, but an initiation into deeper conversations, the fears he had to confront alongside his students. As eyes shifted among family members, he held on to the understanding that the journey was far from over. "Tonight," he concluded, "we began to unravel truths. But tomorrow," he paused, meeting each gaze in the audience head-on. "Tomorrow we face what lies beneath." And just like that, he felt a shift in the air. It almost felt like a question. Could they all confront the shadows that lingered just out of reach? Would this be the beginning of a celebration or a confrontation of hard truths? Sam knew they were standing on the edge of revelation, but how deep would they descend? Answers awaited in the uncharted territories of tomorrow. The air was electric with ambition as Sam paced back and forth, the weight of anticipation resting on his shoulders. The aftermath of the presentation had brought a surge of discussions through the community. Parents and guardians had engaged deeply, their skepticism unraveling, allowing for an openness previously unseen. With every exchange, Sam sensed an opportunity blossoming, the chance to nurture genuine partnerships around the arts program. In the days following the presentation, Sam dedicated himself to galvanizing the momentum. The initial vulnerability shared by both students and himself had paved the way for a community eager to engage. He established a series of workshops, inviting parents to participate alongside their children, exploring how art bridged gaps between generations. Each session felt like planting seeds of collaboration, the laughter and shared experiences adding depth to their commitment. Gradually, conversations transformed into concrete action. A planning committee emerged, drawing in parents, local artists, and educators alike. Sam found himself in a pivotal role, guiding discussions on how to advocate for the arts without compromising their integrity. It was an exhilarating transition. He was no longer a solitary champion fighting against an indifferent system. Instead, he had seamlessly become a united voice of a community striving for artistic representation. As the workshop series progressed, Sam witnessed staggering growth not just within the program but within himself as well. He articulated his vision more eloquently, his passion igniting a shared commitment to cultivate creativity as an essential part of education. This journey transformed his self-doubt into unshakable confidence. He had proven to himself that Unity could unleash extraordinary potential, showcasing not only their artwork but their stories as testaments to resilience. But beyond the unfolding momentum lay personal revelations that tugged at his heart. Faces of students who had thrived echoed in his memory. Sam realized he was awakening something profound within himself. He was no longer merely a history teacher struggling with familial expectations. Instead, he had emerged as an advocate, embracing his legacy while reshaping its narrative with authenticity and depth. Days turned into weeks, and the fruits of their labor began to take shape. The committee organized an arts festival, one that showcased not only student artworks but also invited community members to contribute through classes and performances. This festival promised to be transformative, not just as an event but as a statement of solidarity and recognition. As Sam stood before the vibrant display of student artwork on the festival day, pride welled within him, overshadowing the earlier uncertainties. He watched families mingle, sharing heartfelt conversations surrounded by the stories painted across canvases. The amalgamation of creativity and connection fostered by this event was testament enough to their commitment. Parents approached him, speaking of how the arts had breathed life into their children, igniting newfound passions and aspirations. Sam could see the spark of confidence reigniting in his students as they mingled with pride, and that warmth enveloped him, instilling a fulfillment he had not grasped previously. The festival culminated with heartfelt speeches from students who had now grown comfortable sharing their voices. They spoke not just of their gifts but of the vulnerabilities they had learned to embrace through art. They echoed truths about their struggles and triumphs, and Sam couldn't help but smile at how far they had all come together. As night descended, and the festival twinkled under soft lights, Sam felt a sense of closure and renewal. He realized he had achieved something significant, not merely preserving an arts program but also fortifying his identity within his community, grounded in shared values and mutual respect. His path had changed. He had conquered doubt and hesitation, instead breathing confidence into the very fabric of the artistic community. Sam knew his journey wasn't finished. Instead, it had transformed into a continuous evolution, echoing the resilience of those medieval peasants whose struggles he once read about. With solid confidence and a recognized position as an advocate for the arts, Sam finally felt he was where he was meant to be, bridging dreams that once felt distant into achievable realities through collaboration and creativity. Change is never born of fear but of courage, Sam reflected to himself, stepping gingerly into the night, eager to embrace what lay ahead. And with that exhale of relief, a new chapter began, a personal achievement marked by authentic growth, an empowered identity ready to face whatever the future held with strength and spirit. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm seriously. It makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.